Hello chess friends and welcome to Jozarov chess channel and welcome to an amazing tournament that started today. Welcome to the Chennai Masters in 2024. So this tournament is a one round robin of 8 players in which we'll see a beautiful classical time format chess. And in the first round we had already a clash of chess brothers. We have the clash between two great Indian players, between Vidit Santosh Gujrathi and Arjun Erigaisi. And we know that Vidit and Arjun represented their country India in this beautiful chess Olympiad, in which they really destroyed their competition. Combined with Gukesh, combined with Pragrananda, they played really an immortal tournament. But now they have to play against each other, and I think we'll see probably in the next couple of years many times the situation where maybe a tournament will be decided by two great Indian players because they're so strong and they're so young. So that's why, as I said, although they are chess brothers, sometimes they also have to play against each other. So let's see now what happened with the white pieces here. Vidit Santosh Gujrathi opened with the move e4. Arjun's response was c5, and also what's worth to mention, look at the current ratings by Arjun Erigaisi. He's only 1 point far away from this magical 2800 rating again, so it's now also very important with the potential win. Arjun would break again this very important chess rating. So after move c5 we have knight to f3 by Vidit, e6 the French variation, and now after move c4 we have now the Kramnik variation of the Sicilian defense. We have now knight to c6 d4, we have now the open battle, and now after move knight to d4 we have now reached the Marozzi bind structure, this e4 c4 and the knight on d4 setup, which is I think very often, and it's a very popular line against the Sicilian defense. We have now knight to f6 by Arjun, knight to c3, bishop to c5 hitting the knight, knight to b3, bishop to b4 hitting the knight. That's of course controlling the e4 pawn, and that's why bishop to d3 had to be played now by Vidit. Castling, and now bishop takes c3, the first huge decision by Arjun, I would say. He's doubling up now the pawn structure on the c file. He created, I think, a strategic disadvantage in white's position, but of course white is continuing the game with an amazing bishop pair, so it's of course a great compensation for this messed up pawn structure on the c file here for white. And believe me or not, Arjun makes already a tiny little inaccuracy in the game here in this particular position. Instead of the move d5 that he should have played, he actually played d6. d5 is more important here to play, although you are undoubling maybe the c file here, you are doubling this pawns on the c file, you're creating maybe again a healthier structure in white's camp. The issue for white here in this position is that still white is continuing the game with the weakness on c3. Okay, now the bishops are really good in this position, this open battle, but I would say nothing really spectacular, because the pawn on c3 will become simply a long-term weakness in white's position. So this position has been reached many times, and most of the games are ending with a draw. So okay, maybe Arjun tried something out here with the move d6, but this move is, I think, too passive, a too passive defense here by Arjun, because now Vidit has great chances to maybe launch an attack with f4, or maybe to play bishop to a3. Here Vidit tried bishop to a3, hitting the pawn, hitting also indirectly the rook on f8. The rook drops back, and now rook to e1, competing now also on the e file. If something clears, maybe the rooks could be off the board. Queen to c7, and now knight to d4. A good move by Vidit, because you cannot take the knight on d4 here from black's perspective, because you would then simply improve, of course, white's pawn structure. Now in such a battle, I would say white is dominating. Look at this, bishop's well placed, you can have opportunities to play c5, e5, d5, what the position is of course allowing that. So that's why Arjun keeps it calm, plays now a6, prevents the move knight to b5. We have now knight takes c6, and now again a good choice, I would say, here by Arjun. He played now queen takes c6. If you play b takes c6, seems tempting, because you could maybe again prepare the move d5 here in some lines. This move is not so good, because white would have here a beautiful attack with e5. Then after something like d takes e5, bishop to d6 is then the powerful line, and you have to step back with your queen. Then the pawn on e5 will be taken, and then again when the bishops are crossing towards the king side, this could be a devastating position here for black. You cannot pick up the piece here, because you get a beautiful discovered attack against the queen, and the game is over. So that's why good choice here after knight knight to c6 to pick up the knight with the queen. We have bishop to c2, queen takes c4. Here Vidit temporarily gave up some pawns here, but now after e5, finally Arjun liberates now the diagonal for the light square bishop. Bishop to b3, queen takes c3. Okay, white is down a pawn, but the position is now beautiful for the bishop pair. Now the bishops are very dangerous, and now also white gets huge activity. Now look at this, white has finally created an amazing attacking formation. Queen to a5, bishop to b4, new attack, and now after a couple of trades of queens, of course Vidit plays the amazing rook to c7, gets now the rook on the 7th rank where of course most of the pawns are, and suddenly Arjun has to now defend this position immediately. So rook to d7, rook from e to c1, Arjun takes, Vidit takes, and now bishop to e6 has to be played in order to somehow keep a defensive structure here in front of the king. So that's why here bishop to e6, f takes e6, f3, connecting now the pawns in the center of the board, but still I would say a much better position here for white because of the better rook. The bishop is well placed, and also what we have to notice, there are two weaknesses in black's position: the weak pawn on e6 and the weak pawn on e5. So again, I would say a powerful compensation for the lost pawn by Vidit Santosh Gujrathi. Really great opening theory. We have now b5. We have now the move a3, which was not the best choice here by Vidit. He played maybe here a tiny little mistake in the game, because a better choice was to play h4 to continue maybe here some kind of an attack. Then after something like h6, now you can play a3, because in a potential line like this and a potential check, you can include now your king into the game. That's now the huge importance here, to say that was the way to go here for Vidit. But after move a3, Arjun immediately gave up the pawn back just in order to include the rook into the game finally. And now you see in this previous line h4 was possible, the king would be more active, and now after rook to a2, here we have to say it again, Vidit has some problems to go maybe here with the king on g3, because then you get knight to h5. Even if you try something like this, then knight to f4, and suddenly the position could collapse also here for white. So that's why it was very important in the first place to play the move h4. But okay, after rook to a2 and the king to f1, I would say the position is again pretty equalish. I would say really good chances now for both sides. In a perfect game, if maybe two top engines would play now this game, I think the game would of course end with a draw. So after king to f1, rook to a1, as we said, an equal game. We have now king to f2. Arjun repeats moves, is probably satisfied now with the potential draw because of his structural weaknesses here on e5 and e6. Vidit repeats, Arjun of course repeats moves, but now Vidit makes a huge decision with the move bishop to f1. Here Vidit is, I would say, battling for the win here, because he's not trading off more pieces. He doesn't want to repeat moves with the king, and he's relying simply on this weak pawn structure, this e6 e5 pawn structure here in Arjun's camp. And what we have to say it here, Vidit was really low on clock. Look in the right corner there, Vidit had here around 7.5 minutes on the clock, while Arjun had about half an hour. Huge time advantage in Arjun's game. So that's why maybe a risky choice here by Vidit to go for a win in this situation. Knight to h5, Arjun goes for the f4 square. Vidit is not allowing that, of course. Knight to f6, rook to e7, and now first the counter attack here by Arjun, attacking the pawn, king to e2, and now finally protecting the pawn on e6. So we have now bishop to c3 going for this one. First, the counter attack again here by Arjun. Vidit has to step back, and now again the new check. Here Vidit covers, and now knight to d7. Good moves here by Arjun to somehow defend this position, because you cannot pick up the knight. Then also the bishop would be lost, and then with the same pawn count, again, I would say completely drawish position. So Vidit is still battling for the win. He goes with king to e3, king to e8, h4, rook to a5, rook to c7. Now after move g6, g4, h5. Here, good move by Arjun. He's searching for a clarification on the king side, and now g5. Here, Vidit keeps now the pawn structure locked. Is of course hoping maybe to get some of these pawns here on this side of the board. Rook to a8, rook to c6, king to f7, rook to d3. Here, Vidit is trying to somehow get the king closer, improves now the position of the rook, but now again a good move here by Arjun, keeping everything glued together, everything compact. The king is protecting now the knight, and also here he's not allowing this rook to come maybe on the 8th rank. We have now rook to c6, we have king to f7, king to c3, and now comes again, I would say, critical moment of this game. Here the Arjun plays now a mistake with rook to b8, and this is not good because you are allowing here actually this rook in one moment to come on the 7th rank. A better choice was to somehow compete, and then after something like rook to c8, you can play even knight to b6, and nothing can be done. This knight will eventually kick away the rook, and this knight is also controlling a very important square for the king, so the king cannot get activated maybe here, maybe to get somehow into the game. So this was the way to go. But okay, here white has to actually prove why this is a mistake. Vidit continues one with a good move, bishop to a3, cuts off also the potential square for the king. We have now rook to b1, rook to c7, and you see now suddenly Arjun has a tough time now to defend his position. Actually, my Stockfish engine at home evaluates this position as +3 in white's favor because of the mistake that Arjun played. We have now rook to c8, good move. We have now king to f7, and now rook to d8. Great move here by Vidit Santosh Gujrathi, attacking now the knight, and now the knight has to step back. We have now rook to f8. Here white is much better. Here the king has to step back, and now comes another critical moment of the game. And you look at this, in this particular position, Vidit had only 1 minute, about 1 minute on the clock. He had 1 minute and 10 seconds. He made now another mistake, which is not costing him the game, but he's reaching finally a drawish position in a completely winning game here. What he had to play is now the move rook to e8, simply going for this pawn. If, for instance, black continues with the potential here, after rook to e8, if you start maybe to play rook to f1, if you're trying to do some counter attacks against this pawn on f3, then you can play calm bishop to d6, rook to f3. We go closer with the king. That's the issue. You're trying maybe rook to e3, king gets closer. You can even pick up further pawns, but now in one moment this position is collapsing. Look at this. When this pawn is taking, this pawn is taking, maybe white can create also passer, so it's simply not working. Here maybe after bishop to d6 you can maybe try rook to c1, but then king to b4. Again, the issue is that the king gets activated here in any of these lines, and when this pawn is taking, again, I would say a completely messed up position here for Arjun. So that was the way to go here. Vidit had to play the move rook to e8, but instead of this move he played rook to f6. He allows here Arjun to get back into the game. Arjun plays now here knight to a4, good move, knight king to c4, knight to b6. We have king to c3. The problem is you cannot go to c5 here because of the fork, so Arjun realized the opportunity here, how he could keep Vidit's king out of game. So if the king gets somewhere here, this pawn of course is then a huge problem then in the fully endgame stage. So here after king to c3, we have now knight to a4, king to c2. You see Vidit has to step back with the king, and now rook to b6, protecting now everything here on the 6th rank. We have now bishop to f8, king to h7, bishop to h6, rook to b2, new check, king to d3, and again a new mistake here by Arjun Erigaisi. And you see now Arjun is also, I would say, low on clock, only about 8 minutes here, so many mistakes can be played now by both sides. What Arjun has to play here in this position is to play knight to c5, and if potential king to c4 happens, there is a beautiful trick how you can protect everything. First of all, you deliver check here, and then you place your knight on f4. That was now the drawish sequence here for Arjun, and the king is now locked. Of course, it's out of game because of this beautiful rook activity. So this was a huge opportunity now for Arjun to equalize the game. But instead of the move knight to c5, he played rook to b7, which is again finally a winning position here for Vidit. Now in the game, bishop to f8, again a mistake by Vidit because king to c4. Now you have the immediate opportunity to include the rook into the game. If rook to c7 happens, the king is getting closer. So I would say completely messed up position here for black. But bishop to f8 by Vidit, here it seems like an active move. It seems like it's restricting the knight's ability to play, but it was too passive. The king should have been included into the attack, and that's exactly a very important endgame rule here, that the king is an active piece, not something that you should protect. So huge chance here for white to win the game somehow. But still, I would say white is much better here, because black has a tough time now to include the king into the game. Knight to b2, king to e2, rook to b6, bishop to h6, and now another mistake here by Arjun Erigaisi, rook to c6. What he should have done is again to play something like knight to a4, trying to get the knight into the game. After rook to f7 here, you can maybe stay, then you try maybe deliver check, and now you keep your active knight in the game. That's the most important thing here. Maybe you lose a pawn, but now with knight to d3, finally the knight is activated. The knight is at least playing for a while. White's king is now also a little bit out of game, and maybe you can hold this position. But after rook to c6, we have now a huge problem. After rook to f7, king to h8, rook to f8. Here we have rook to f7, king to h8, and here what Vidit should have done is simply attack the knight. That was now again the winning move. Unfortunately for Vidit, he didn't play that. Rook to b7 is a must move here for Vidit, because then after something like rook to c2, you go again with the king closer, and even if your king gets attacked, the issue is in one moment these pawns will be taken here. First of all, this one, you pick up this one, then also the pawn on e6 will be taken, and suddenly I would say completely winning position here for white. So you see, this was the way to go, attacking the knight, including the rook into the game, including now also the king into the games. But unfortunately for Vidit, he played now a bad rook to g7, and there's nothing that can be done here. Arjun plays the correct move, rook to c2, king to e3. First of all, the check. Again, Arjun takes now the pawn on f3. Vidit is also taking on now this pawn, but now first a check, and now after king to d1, I would say again a completely drawish position here. We have rook to f4, rook takes e6, knight to e3. We have now knight to g4. Now again, it's a completely drawish game. We have now king to g8, rook to e8, king to h7. We have now rook to e7, king to g8. Now if we have a repetition, and after bishop to f8, knight to f2, king to c4, and rook takes e4. Now suddenly, look at this, Arjun got his pawn back, and again, if white and black play the game fully correctly here, this should be a thematic draw. But now the real madness starts. Now after rook to e4, king to d5, we have rook takes h4. Here Arjun grabs the pawn. We have now bishop to e7. We have now rook to g4, and now what Vidit should have done immediately now is to play king to e5. King to e5, and again, it's a draw. Nothing can be done. The king is now close enough to the action, and it's really drawish position. But instead of this move, rook king takes e5, here Vidit played king to e6. Still, it's a drawish game, because after knight to e4 and king to f5, here Arjun plays knight to g3. But what Vidit did now is now really total madness. He played now king takes e5, and believe me or not, this game is losing now for white. Really amazing stuff. Although this material is equal, this move is not so good. What Vidit should have played is simply to keep your king on e6 here, and then after something like knight to e4, you play again king to f5, knight to g3, and we would have a repetition. But after king to e5, the issue here is now that white's king is now suddenly far away from the action. All of the squares are taken here. You cannot activate the king. You cannot even deliver some checks, because then king to f7 is winning the game. We attack now both pieces, and nothing is working. So after king to e6 that Vidit played, we have rook to e4 check. The king has to now step back to the d file, and now the king is simply too far away from the action. Knight to f5, bishop to d8, rook takes e8, king takes e8, but now h4, and this pawn is marching, and this is now completely winning endgame here by Arjun. King to d7, h3. The issue is you have to now control this square h2 here. Of course, Arjun takes, and even if you try, I don't know, something like bishop to h2, then the issue is the king is getting closer. Then we lock out the bishop cannot escape anymore, and in potential line king to d5, now the king is getting here, and when the king is coming on g2, then you can maybe just prolong the game by giving up here the piece, but this one is promoted for sure. So that's why here king to e6, again we have king to g4, bishop to h2, knight to g3, king to f6, and after king to f3, in this particular position, Vidit, Santosh, Gujrathi resign because of the same problem. Of course, we'll play king to g2, and you can just prolong the game by giving up now the bishop for knight, but the pawn on the h file is rolling. So what a spectacular endgame, I would say. Many mistakes were played by both sides. Vidit had, I think, a huge opportunity to win the game. Arjun defended somehow, squeezed the win in a seemingly losing position. I think a realistic result would have been a draw here. But okay, huge win now for Arjun. He gained now a couple of rating points and is again part of the 2800 rating club. He gained finally he is again this magical rating, which only 16 players in chess history have gained. So incredible performance by Arjun. Huge win with the black pieces against such a strong opponent like Vidit, Santosh, Gujrathi. But it was an epic, incredible roller coaster now by both sides. So okay, I hope that you enjoyed this game. I really enjoyed it a lot. If you want to see some other beautiful games played by Arjun, Vidit, and many top GMs from India, check out our coverage, our Come to Chess games. And if you want to see even sharper, more brutal, more epic games, check out our Come to Chess games played by computer series, where we analyze some beautiful AI games. And if you like this content, don't forget to subscribe to my channel. See you soon with some more videos. And what do we say in the end? Chess is the best, of course.